So one mistake I made was overly rationalizing my startup. And I think it's something that doesn't get talked enough about. The idea of overly rationalizing your startup, to me at least, is when I already am working on something, but then I stop and I pause and I think that it doesn't have a sound business model. I'm not sure how it's going to make money. It's just not clear to me that this can be a business. And then I start going down this rabbit hole of trying to find out who would be interested into what I'm building, who has the capital, and how can I distribute it. And the issue is 100% of the time that you reach a sound conclusion, you reach a sound thesis. And by that time, your idea gets shaped so much to the point where if you look for competitors, you'll see that there are a bunch of them. So the point is that if your startup sounds way more like a business and it has a very clear thesis, you're probably either late or wrong. Now, don't get me wrong, you probably still have a chance to build something which is successful, but you'll have so much more competition, and probably competition which is already well funded, unless you're among the first here. One such startup that we have a very clear thesis is Legora or Harvey. All of these legal startups that started as the AI boom began have a very clear thesis. Investors got them. It was clear that they were a necessity. But then, if you were in the startup world, you'd have probably known that there were 1,000 others who were doing the same thing. They had clients until they didn't. It was a bloodbath, and the innovation happened mostly on who can get the customers. But my point right now is that I think most of the good startup ideas don't come from overly rationalizing about things. So if you look at Steve Jobs or Mark Zuckerberg, it's not clear that at their early stages they would have gotten in any of the accelerators like YC or A16Z. Precisely with Apple, it didn't seem like Steve Jobs conducted any customer interviews before. He just knew that Apple Computer had to exist. It was something he himself desired. And I think that desire of you knowing that something has to exist in the world and would bring value to others is enough to start a startup and rationalize the need for it. You don't need a sound business plan because, again, the trap you fall into when you start going down this path of figuring out a business plan is that you think in a certain framework, you think in a certain way. And that kind of thinking gets you to rational conclusions that probably others ended up at, simply because they started with different ideas, and once you filter them out enough, you get to the same thing.